Good evening. It's 5 o'clock on July 21st. This is the Parks and Public Works Committee meeting. Um, We're going to call to order and do roll call here. This evening, we have our committee members, council members, Brian Holloway, Dan Murphy, and myself present. We also have Director Jeff Hamlin from Parks and Public Works. We have Project Engineer Fry and Project Manager Dylan in the audience, as well as Jimmy from IT. Next up on is the agenda approval. Is there any concerns with the agenda? Or any additions to be made? Oh, okay, we'll consider the agenda approved. Next topic is public comment. And I do see that we have a member present in the audience. I believe you might want to be giving public comment. Is that correct? Okay. Yeah. And you will be able to address us for 3 minutes and just state your name and city of residence.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Chair Cotton, council members Holloway and Murphy. My name is Nicole Wolfley and I live in Snoqualmie. So on Saturday, July 18th, while I was gardening and trying to corral my children in the front yard, I heard a loud crack from the parkway. And I, for some reason, rushed to the road. Two neighbors had blocked traffic and their cars were protecting this badly injured deer, and her leg was very broken. And then she tried to get up, try to walk away, and the other leg broke. It was heartbreaking. Her two fawns were nearby, and another citizen on the other side of the parkway guided them up into the golf area. And this was a hit and run situation. The vehicle fled and their gentleman stopped to protect this poor deer. Snoqualmie police were luckily in the area. And I thank you, Councilmember Cotton, for taking my call. I was very distraught. And you guided me through what to do and what to tell the police. And so that was very helpful. But because the deer was suffering, unfortunately, they had to euthanize her. And it was very heartbreaking. And it underlines a serious danger along the parkway. Since then, 3 of my other neighbors have reached out to me and we've been in communication. I was in an SVRME meeting all afternoon, so I wasn't able to coordinate with them to come here and speak. Hopefully, they've submitted an email comment. And actually, one neighbor was searching in the woods last night for the fawns because apparently they tried to go back to the mother. And she said she hasn't slept in 2 days and she is worried sick. So I'm going to contact those neighbors and encourage them to reach out to you guys as the committee. So I'm asking the Parks and Public Works Committee to install additional wildlife warning signs, ideally with flashing beacons or solar-powered lights along the parkway where there's wildlife. With increased tourism, which we love for our city, many visitors are unfamiliar with our environment, and maybe clear warning signs can help just let people know to either slow down, that there's deer around. And I understand that the budgets are tight right now and things are happening, and I would love or can help with organizing fundraising of any sort to help this and coordinate with neighbors as well. So yes, please work with us to take a concrete step so no other mother or her fawns have to suffer like this again. And thank you so much for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Nicole, for coming and sharing with us today. And I know it was a very traumatic scene out there, and certainly, this not only affects Parks and Public Works, but I also feel strongly that this is a public safety issue as well, just in case somebody being distraught about the deer runs out into traffic inadvertently, and we have human concerns as well that we would add on to that. So we'll definitely see what potentially we can help with as far as this. I do know that there's some areas around town where we do have the little stags leaping across the signs and such, and so we can without getting into hopefully too much sign fatigue, try to see what we can do to help alert, especially like you mentioned, visitors to the area. Okay. All right. Anybody else in the audience that wants to make comment? All right. All right. On that, we will close public comment for today. And again, thank you, Nicole, for taking the time to join us. Next up is approval of the minutes for the meeting dated June 16th, 2026. Any concerns with the minutes?
No concerns.
No concern.
All right, we'll consider those approved. And then we're going to move on to agenda bills. Apparently under AB 2630, we also will be getting a presentation on the Canyon Springs ASR project as well. So I think maybe we should do that one first. Want to go ahead? Project engineer Fry here, and we can go ahead and get started with that.
All right, I am trying to share my screen. If Jimmy, it says the host isn't allowed multiple presenters sharing. That's Jimmy's screen up there with the presentation. Perfect. Thank you. All right. Minor. Okay. All right. There we go. Evening, committee members and mayor. Patrick Fry, project engineer at the city of Snoqualmie. So as mentioned, this agenda bill is for a professional services agreement with Geosyntec. And this is with regards to ASR. So this is hopefully the final contract in a long list of contracts concerning ASR. So that's the broader project is considered ASR. So before I touch on what's in this contract specifically, I kind of wanted to just back up and give an overview of what this project really is and what ASR is. So ASR, it stands for Aquifer. Yeah, sorry. Aquifer Storage and Recovery. And goodness, okay. And it's essentially using a natural aquifer as a reservoir. And so if you imagine all of the water towers that you see everywhere that you drive, instead of a water tower, it's using the aquifer as one of those water towers. And so in our specific instance, what we're proposing is taking water from Canyon Springs, which is our main water source or one of our main water sources, and conveying it to the south well field and then putting it down into our aquifer that we're already utilizing. And so what this methodology really does is it uses existing infrastructure and an existing aquifer as a new facility, essentially, and saves it a lot of money. And just there's a lot of potential there in terms of a new water right that is accessible year round. And there are some restrictions with this water right, as you can imagine. You can't just be taking water full time from Canyon Springs, and that's because of any water rights that are from Canyon Springs circa 1980. There's something that's called in-stream flow rules. And so this is just any water right from 1980 onwards in most of the state. There's the law that says, hey, you can take water if you have a water right, but when water levels in certain water bodies reach a level, you can't take water anymore because they're too low. Water levels are too low. You need to let the natural course of water just run as it is. And so that essentially means that from May through September, those water rights can't be utilized. And unfortunately, that is also when the city is demanding the most of its water. And so in getting an additional water right from Canyon Springs and then putting it into the ground, we can be taking water from Canyon Springs in the winter when water is plentiful and there's no in-stream flow rules in effect, put it into the ground and then pull them out during the summer, pull that water out during the summer when in-stream flow rules are in effect. From a regulatory standpoint, what that means is there's two water right applications. There's one for just the water right from Canyon Springs. That's the one that's subject to in-stream flow rules. That's additional water right on top of our already existing water right that we have there. And then the second application is for a reservoir permit that's treating the aquifer as a reservoir. And then that would allow us to pull the water out at any point during the year and not be subject to in-stream flow rules. So that's ASR in 5 minutes. Before I move on and get to the contract, are there any questions with regards to how that works on a general scheme?
No, I think I'm pretty good with that. I was noticing the timeline that we've already invested a lot of time in actually collecting some data already on that, and also have we received the grants?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's
So-
what we've been using for this.
I'll,
Yeah.
I'll touch on the timeline of
Okay.
everything and the grants in a few slides. I just want to just make sure everybody has a general idea of ASR.
Question?
We're moving on.
Question. So additional 3 cubic feet per second
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
when flows, and I may not understand the arrow of time here. When a 3 cubic feet diversion, only when flow stream is met, meaning during the dry season, we can take out an additional 3 cubic feet per second.
Opposite. And so
Winter, we can take out additional cubic feet from
Canyon Springs.
Canyon Springs.
Yep.
When it's at times.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's the water that'll go into the aquifer storage. Okay, all right.
Good to move on?
I guess there's one thing we should mention too, is that there's another side benefit to ASR, and that we every year will pump up the aquifer with this water, which helps maintain flows in the river downstream. That's why we were given a $500,000 grant, because it's a stream flow restoration grant that ASR, or that college gave us, because the benefit of doing it, it's felt downriver, and it offsets a lot of what's called exempt wells, people who live outside of a jurisdictional water system who have a right to drill their own well for their own use. Well, they don't have a water right, they have a permit to drill water, but there's a lot of those out there, and these types of projects, ASR projects, help to offset as well.
Are some within the city, or is it just the
We're
unincorporated?
seeing outside the city, I mean, all of those exempt wells are outside the city limit, because if they were in the city limits, they would be on our water.
On our
system.
water system, okay, thanks.
All right. So moving on and focusing on what's actually in this contract. The goal of this contract is really to complete the ASR project as a whole. So hopefully this is the last contract that you'll see with regards to that. But specifically, it's completing the remaining pilot study. So we completed a pilot study. Well, we ran a pilot study this spring. So essentially just did a mini ASR proposal, and we were collecting data that whole time. And now we have to have our consultants essentially read that data and create a report that goes to ecology for that pilot study. It's completing the reservoir permit application. It's providing water rights support, which is mainly just helping us deal with ecology and what their needs and wants are for this, and then just being engineering and water supply support. So that's, on the whole, that's what's in this contract. The contract itself should be one of the exhibits, so if you're curious, you can dive into there. As far as timeline that we did mention before, I apologize for the small bars and going on here, but if you look, the top bar, that's the contracts. So you'll see 6 points on there. There's the initial contract that was signed. If you're looking at the bar just below it, that shows the year. So that would be in 2016. That initial contract was signed. Then the 4 amendments, subsequent ones, and then now we're in 2026, obviously. And the few milestones that I kind of want to touch on in this is ASR was identified in the end of 2019. So that first contract was really, hey, we have a water problem. What can we do to solve it? And after a couple of years, ASR was identified as that solution. And so then that's been 7 years since that time, and we're not expecting to really be project complete until the end of 2028. So this is nearly a 10-year project, and we're just on that last, hopefully, 2 years of it. That ecology grant that was mentioned, we received $477K in January of 2020, or not January, just in the end of 2020. And then that grant was increased into 529,000 in early 2023. And so as Jeff touched on, that was a stream flow restoration grant. And it's exactly that. It's to help kind of study the benefits of the stream flow with ASR. And so we have been billing to it. So we haven't received a full 529,000 because it's a reimbursement program, but we have been reimbursed a large portion of that by now. And I also want to touch on the appropriation that you guys signed off on in 2025 versus what the current outlook is. And so in the 2025 appropriation that was in that CIP book that you all know and love, we had expected to spend $1.8 million. That's over the project lifetime. And now the current outlook is $1.548 million. Again, project lifetime. So that's going back to that 2016 date. And so that means that we are actually below what our expected budget was by about $260,000 from a couple years ago when this was signed. And
Well, back up. We're not expecting nor did any construction in support of this?
no, so we actually, that was a good question. I wasn't at that council meeting that got brought up, but we did some digging and I think it was a transcription error, I guess, is the best way to put it. It was just because this is an odd project, you can say. And so when Dylan was creating the CIP, it was just a matter of confusion of, hey, what's construction, what's analysis, what's design? But no, we're not expecting any construction in this. So really that $1.1 million that you saw was in 2025. It really mostly should have been in that analysis and design work.
When we first came up with the CIP back in 2019, when we were guessing of what we were going to need to do to implement ASR, there was some construction projects that we anticipated we may have to do, which would be geared more towards delivering water from Canyon Springs to the aquifer.
Yeah.
Right. So building a pipeline and likely doing things at our south well field or at the wellheads, right, to make that work. So we did initially have like a construction budget, but when we updated this in 2025, I think it was my fault. I didn't tell Dylan exactly how the project had changed. And so those changes never really made it into our projected budget, but the costs sorted it. The $250,000 is kind of the lack of construction that we didn't do. But there was more analysis and there was a grant and there was other things. So the project changed. And like Pat said, this was an atypical project. This isn't a study, design, build type project. This is a study and analyze. And then if there might be a little building to it. So we didn't do much of the building. We got lucky. We didn't have to spend that much money because we actually had a configuration that worked for delivering water to the aquifer.
Right, but you also got a well field which was used for extraction before that now you're going to use for injection, which was never meant before. And there were no changes as a result of that?
No.
We had to flip a valve around and replace one other check valve because it was too old.
I had assumed that there was going to be more. I thought that we would have to do some more to deliver the water to the wellhead. But we just got lucky because we had sufficient pressure to do it and a well that could accept it. And so all we literally did was flip the valve around and made it so it worked.
Okay.
Awesome.
And just to touch on the contract compensation, just because I haven't mentioned, the total for this contract is 394,000. I already talked about the tasks that are generally in it. So I won't harp on this one, but that's the value of this contract. And that is it for my presentation.
My understanding, somewhere back in my memory banks, is in the preliminary results that we've been getting, that you really weren't seeing much in the way of leakage out. I mean, it was fairly minimal.
Well, there is leakage. There's definitely leakage.
Yeah.
But it is a very well confined aquifer, much more so than most, right? Where what we noticed was when we put water into the aquifer, we see an instant response in the other well field, which is unusual. Typically, you can put water down in there for months and months and you barely see a response because aquifers are so big and the water spreads out. You get this kind of mounting effect where you pump it in and then it just kind of spreads out. While with ours, it spreads out and brings everything up. So it's not a huge aquifer, but we are in a place where the aquifer starts to be confined between layers. And it's actually artesian, but not artesian where it comes above the ground, but it's artesian in that it's pressurized so that our water levels are higher than the aquifer itself. So we see this nice response in our aquifer. And luckily we have a very good model of the aquifer, which was a result of some early work that was done by this company called Golder and Associates. And our project manager from Aspect or Geosyntec now, he used to work at Golder and was the main guy who did all the modeling, led that modeling effort. So we have the guy who knows our aquifer better than anybody.
Wasn't this the studies that were done back in the 70s and 80s? The
Mhm.
Golder studies? Yeah, okay.
That's the East King County Regional Water Authority.
Yeah, okay. I'd like to say I read it in its entirety, but I did not.
By the way,
Nobody's gonna check.
He's still alive. And the Seattle Water Department is the key principal on that application, and they're keeping it alive. And they asked if we wanted to stay involved. I mean, remember I brought this to you guys 2 years ago. They wanted a lot of money for us to have
Run a
minor
pipe
share.
down.
We're like, see ya, right? I think our prospects are better by getting out. And, we'll make sure that whatever they do doesn't impact our water source.
What is the contribution to the downstream flow, the river? Is it significant or?
It is measurable,
Measurable, okay.
which is about as good as you can actually say.
Yeah.
But what it really is, so part of what we need to do with this aquifer permit is establish how much of the water we get back,
Right.
right? Because we don't get it all back. We put a certain amount of water into the aquifer, call that X. Some of that water leaks out, call that Y. We don't get X minus Y. We get X minus Y plus stream flow benefit. There's other things that we have to kind of work through with ecology to determine what we get back.
Okay.
But the good news is that we get something back for very little effort and cost.
And I know we've been looking, so.
It fixes a lot of things. For us. Our instantaneous water right is greatly improved.
Great. Any other?
No, plus you're getting that 3 cubic feet per second. Some portion of that you get back
That's right.
with the aquifer.
A fairly good portion of it.
Questions?
No questions. Thanks for the briefing.
The only question, I do have so the contract is for 384,000?
94.
Okay, sorry. And that'll bring the overall, what I'm looking for is project expenditure to date, but that 394 will bring you up to the $1.548 million
That's correct.
as
Yeah,
projected.
exactly.
Okay.
Not including labor, or yeah, so that includes labor being
You
me.
can't not include
Yeah,
labor.
sorry. I wanted to make sure that was clear. The 1.548 includes labor. So if you tally up all the contract totals, it's not going to be 1.548 because that wouldn't include my labor. which does. So here's the current outlook of the CIP worksheet, which is probably hard to read from back over there. But yes, so it shows what all of the previously expenditures was and my labor and
Okay. Do we get that attached to the agenda bill when it goes forward?
yes.
I have no further questions, Chair.
Okay, thank you. All righty, so so we were going to move this particular, get up the agenda bill forward as part of the previously kind of configuration of agenda bill contracts that was under this one. And so,
But this is approval of the contract that they're bringing tonight. So I don't worry that previous approved.
no, we didn't approve it previously,
Agree,
but we want to move this forward to council.
yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I have the right agenda bill since it's kind of confusing the way it's listed.
Well, it'll be agenda bill 2630.
Yeah, but it's got all the exhibit A ones listed underneath that too. I was wondering if it at least narrows out that one. The professional service agreement with Geocentric. Or do we have to lump it underneath that? Mayor, I think you had some help in putting these together?
Yes, it should be, I believe it's the only item on 030.
Particular exhibit A. We don't have to worry about the,
Correct. That's the only thing that you're being asked to take action on is this item alone.
Yes, sir.
And what we're trying to do is standardize for you so that if it's something that you've previously appropriated, you get the same agenda bill every time. You just get a different appendix A that then tells you, okay, what are you being asked to do tonight? What's its status? And so sometimes that might be several because we're trying to cut down on the number of, agenda bills. But you obviously you'll want to know about each of the things you're being asked to approve. So in this case, it's just one.
Okay. So that's it.
so, yeah, it's the 26030 of that particular capital project. Yeah, it's hard when you don't know the specific name of the project or the contract that it's going under. But I think we can go ahead and move that forward for council approval.
Mhm.
Yes, Mayor.
Just want to take a homework assignment from what you just said. I take it would be helpful to have better explanation on that Schedule A so that you could tie back to this. Did I hear right?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll work on that.
Yeah, because the geocentric stuff is kind of down at the end also with some of the Canyon Springs emergency stuff at the very end of the agenda packet.
I
So,
see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
I see.
It was kind of
It's hard to follow.
not quite
Okay.
as concise, yeah.
We'll work on that.
Thank you. All right, let's see, what,
Before we move on, just to confirm, present this to council of the whole, or should I expect? Not
I would
to?
like to see go to council of the whole, but. it's gotta go
The
to
presentation
everything.
itself.
Oh, no, he's asking the presentation. Do you want the presentation to be presented to the council?
Short?
Okay.
That would be great. Yeah,
hap-
because I
happy
don't
to.
think they've gotten the information on the ASR that we've had.
Yep.
In the past, so that's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna have a switch up here. And are we moving on to AB 26042? Yep. That's the next one. Project Manager Dylan Gamble.
Yes, yeah, either luckily for you or not luckily, I do not have a presentation for this. This is, in short, the authorization and approval for us to move forward on 3 contracts, Newton Street repair, stormwater pond repair and replacement for stormwater pond fencing specifically, and then utility mains inspections, repairs, and potential sleeving. It's alternative. We can get into that if you'd like, but it's those 3 items. If you were to think about it in terms of the resolution you were asking about earlier on the Exhibit A for this one will show those 3 projects listed in Exhibit A with the cost breakdowns for the components. So just to kind of tie those 2 concepts a little together. No presentation on this one. This is a programmatic work, whereas we just heard about a project work. And I don't need to dig into the whole difference between projects and programs, but this is the structure for the programmatic. Schedule A. Jimmy, can you help me out with Schedule A? It's going to be Exhibit A. It's the 3rd. Yeah, you're going to have to scroll down. Further. You'll see a resolution. You'll go past that just a little bit. It's like essentially the
It's on a
attachment.
page all by itself.
Yep, one more, Scooch. A little more. Yeah, that's it. Perfect. Okay, this is the breakdown of.
Yes, Mayor.
Yeah, so just because this is a program, not a project, what we've always brought you is, so the council has authorized a biennial budget for these items. So what we're reporting back to you is, okay, we're requesting this contract and we tell you how much of that budget's left. And so this has all of that information for each of the things we're asking about, so that you can kind of do that check that you've always done, which is, wait a minute, are you going over budget, or how close to the budget are you? So we thought that was important to put that on Schedule A so you'd be able to see that.
Yep. And I'm happy to go into details on this concept here, especially if you got confused with the why is there a running total concept. I know that's a little funny, but I hope it's clear that I'm trying to show, there's a running tab, so to speak, on some of the programmatic work. And yeah, I'll just leave it there.
What does the orange text mean?
The orange text means that the total is not, so let's say I wanted to go bring a project forth to you, I would figure out what the total remaining budget is for that program. In this case, I'm proposing using it twice. And so in the second number, the orange one, that means that above, we've already pulled from it in a sense. So if you were to scroll your eyes to Newton Street, we're proposing to use combined utility mains and drains money, approximately 950,000, against that total that I would have calculated. And then lower on, I'm also proposing using it for the mains inspection, sleeving, repair work. And so that means I don't have 3.2 million anymore. I would have less because I've spent against it. So I'm just trying to show you that this is what the total is at the end of the day, moving lower across the chart.
And wasn't there something else we were using the means and drains? Number 417 fund?
Yeah, we do use it for several things. As you know, we have contract authorities and allowances. So we do some work that won't go here. We do it, with companies that we contract separately in different ways. And in this case, we have 2 just on this agenda bill. I believe we have others coming further down the line as well. So this one particularly is a complicated net of utility mains. I'm sure it's understandable as to why, but 3 utilities, 3 separate types of ways of managing mains and drains and all the complexities that come with it.
Okay, now I'm understanding. This is, I'm sorry. This is a confusing chart. So what you're telling me is right now within is stormwater? What fund is this?
I don't know what you're looking at, so it's really hard for me
I'm
to.
looking at that chart right there.
Okay.
that you have a remaining budget of
Utilities.
$3.2 million.
It's the utilities capital fund, yeah.
All right, you have a utility capital fund remaining balance of $3.2 million. You've already committed outside of this action, 265 to Kimball Creek Restoration, 150 to the American with Disability Program. And
No, I think I can help here. Those are separate programs.
That's remaining in their program.
Yep.
so are you telling me then that you're using Kimball Creek Riparian Restoration Project to pay for Newton Street sidewalk construction?
Yes. Partially. So the project, yes, right here. It is the sidewalk portion. It's the sidewalk and
Sidewalk is not riparian restoration, so I'm taking money away from riparian restoration to make sidewalk.
it's part of our sidewalk and storm component. It's just called out here as a sidewalk. It got shorthanded on the. Go ahead if you
I think I
like.
can answer.
Or do you want to see?
We're actually putting in water treatment devices on the Newton Street connector, connected to the stormwater system so that it is actually cleaning up Kimball Creek. And so that's why we're pulling from the fund Kimball Creek Riparian Restoration. And what we've talked about previously with the Kimball Creek Riparian Restoration, a lot of that is to pay for NPDES requirements, that SMED requirement that I probably beat into you guys 6 months ago or whenever it was. So that essentially says that we need to do work on the Kimball Creek Basin. The work is kind of you get to pick and choose what work means, but you need to clean up X amount of acres. And so by putting in these treatment devices on Newton Street and their stormwater, that actually goes towards cleaning up Kimball Creek and meets the NPDES requirements. And so that's why we're proposing to pull from that fund for the storm and sidewalk portion of Newton. Does that answer the question? We
It's still, did finance get a view of this chart?
Yes, we can't bring anything to council without financing it one way or the other. And this chart is included in that. All these numbers are Jan and I sitting together figuring it out.
Okay, I got a very small brain, so I'm looking for a very simple story of what's your budget?
Mhm.
What have you committed? What is remaining and what you are proposing to spend now?
Yeah.
Okay, and this kind of gets it jumbled together. So my little pea brain is having issues.
I think I can help if you
Think
want.
what-
If I can walk you through it maybe real fast, then there's only one point of conflict on this chart, really.
Well, I think I understand. So Newton Street overall repair is $1.07 million. Newton Street combined utility work is $950. Newton Street ADA improvement or sidewalk is $105. Now, the $950 is coming out of the combined utility mains and drains.
Yep.
And you have $3.21 million in that remaining.
Mhm.
I don't know what your initial budget was, not on the chart. Okay, the next one, Newton Street sidewalk construction is 105. And you have Kimball Creek Riparian Restoration Project we talked about because of the stormwater filtering. You're using that money to do the sidewalks. And we often, when we
Yeah.
do utility stuff, cover the sidewalks up above.
Mhm.
Okay. And we've got 105 for Americans with Disability Act.
15
15, yeah.
Well, you got 15 for Newton Street improvements, but you've got 150
left.
overall in the program
Mhm.
left at this stage. Okay. And then stormwater pond fencing, you're proposing spending 318. You had budget for 318. That one balances out. Then main inspection, you're expecting to spend 625. That also is coming out of the combined utility mains drains programs. Where if I took the 950 out of it from prior, I get $2.6 million remaining in that budget right now. I
Uh,
follow that?
Except for that last calculation, but I think yes, you had the structure correct.
So-
Mayor, yes.
So if I could, and I'm trying to follow this closely to follow like how we can improve this to make this completely useful. just go through that last number. So if we take the Newton Street combined utility work, 950,000, which is a component of the total contract we're asking authority for of 1.070. So 950 of it is getting charged to the combined utility mains and drains program. At that, as you look at that, since that's the first on the page, there's 3.2 million left in that fund to use. Now later, down at the bottom, we asked for different money to also go against that program. So what we did is we said, hold on, 3.2 isn't still there by the time we get to the second request.
You take the 9.
So we take the 3.2, we subtract the 950, and that's how you get that 2.259 that's in orange. So we're trying to, make sure that, you see each step and how that remaining amount's being reduced. So if it would be more helpful to have different numbers or laid out differently, or tell us what makes it most useful to you. We sort of tried to do the thing that we thought would be the most concise, but sometimes you can get over concise.
Yeah, I think this is great. I think maybe one addition might be the, for those of us who weren't at the beginning of this, the total programmatic budget for each of those lines. So what's the, where did it start, right? And then we see what's remaining and then what we're using for the specific project here. So I think having the full, just as a reminder, I think might be good if that's easy to pull.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just want to repeat it back to make sure I'm getting this right, because I believe it's the same thing that Councilmember Holloway said. So I just want to make sure I'm hearing this right. We have 2 columns of data. I think what I'm hearing is, how about 4? So tell us where we started for the whole biennium. Tell us what you've already spent, and then give us these 2 pieces.
Yes.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, we will do that.
There may need, and you did some gymnastics here, maybe need some distinction of where I have a fund hitting multiple points. That's your issue. That's your structural issue of the chart is I have one fund and I'm using it in 2 different locations on the chart. Okay. You can either break that out as a separate column to be clear, to say I'm using this fund for just these items, and then the rest of them are just line items matched up. But I'd leave it to you guys how to do it. Okay.
I understand
But
the
it's very
objective.
confusing to see one number and then see it changed.
Yeah.
And to see a color, again, pea brain. Um,
So the thing that it's kind of a challenge for us. So the thing we're asking you for tonight is a contract authorization. So we kind of anchored this on the contract amount. But your questions are say, no, focus me on your program totals, which just, we can anchor it either way, but just so you're clear, either way, you can't get to the other. It's difficult to get to the other one. So I know I'm clear on the 4 data points you want. We will work on ways to give you that from now on and how to lay that out to help you accomplish what you're trying to accomplish, which is help me understand, fine, the contract you're asking for, but also help us understand what's going on with this program.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
That's all I have. No presentation needed. Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna move that forward, as far as to the full council for approval.
oh, hang on.
Oh, you have more questions?
Yeah, I guess. So Newton is $1 million. Stormwater pond fencing is 318. And mains is 625. So this is lump sum of about $2 million.
Yeah.
Yes, Mayor.
But just to be clear, it is 3 separate contracts, 3 individual contracts with the contractors.
Mhm.
So it's not just one contractor here. There's 3 separate contracts.
Yep.
And you've got Newton Street in here. And then you got the stormwater fencing in here. Okay, 3 separate contracts. Right, the issue I'm scratching is this agenda build executes $2 million.
Yes.
Doesn't say that in the agenda bill.
Approval to execute contracts for previously appropriated capital programs is
No, no,
the,
he's asking for a total. We'll add that in the future, absolutely.
Okay, I just want the
I see.
council to know
oh, I see. Yeah.
what they're spending.
Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it okay with committee if we add that total before we put it in the agenda packet for the council?
I think it's,
Okay, I won't attempt between now and then to do the 4 columns, but we will get the total in, and then any future that we bring to you of these, we'll bring you a version of the 4, and you'll let us know how we did.
No, that'd be great.
Mhm.
All right, and then, so we'll be moving that forward with the updated amount. And then on the regular, not on the consent. On the-
Okay.
All right, and then who will get to do the Canyon Springs? Back to- So AB 26-043, the Canyon Springs Slope Stabilization Professional Service Agreement.
All right, I'm going to pilfer the screen again so that I can share a presentation. All right. So again, so this one is for Canyon Springs slope stability, but it will give you a little bit of whiplash just because it is a professional services agreement with Geosyntec. So it's looks similar to 030 for that reason. But this one is a totally separate project for Canyon Springs slope stability. So the purpose for tonight, though, is to alert you to recent geological activity that's happened up there, but then also to award that contract that's in mention. And so I think I've showed you this map before, but just so that you have it and make sure that we're all on the same page, is Canyon Springs is way up there in the right side of this map, which is our main water source. It supplies about 900 GPM. That's 24/7 down to the city, main water source, critical infrastructure. And that flows from Canyon Springs through ductile iron pipe and then makes its way down to the city from there. And again, I know you guys are familiar with Canyon Springs and where it's at, but this is its location in more topographical map, and it just kind of highlights the area that it's in. It's starting to become the mountainous side there. So backing up though to 2017, this aerial imagery comes to us from 2017. So we're backing up just a little bit, and what you'll see is Canyon Springs is to our right on this picture. And so that's upstream of there. That's, call it northeast. Meanwhile, Ernie's Grove, if you all familiar with Ernie's Grove, yep. So Ernie's Grove is down to the left downstream of there. And so that's give or take where this, well, not give or take, it is where this location is. What isn't super clear on this picture is this is a 45-degree slope that we're looking at right here. So it's a really steep hillside. It's not conveyed super well in this aerial imagery because it's 2D, but it is steep. Our water main runs in the ground just all along that 45-degree slope there. And I did not choose 2017 aerial imagery just for fun. I chose it because in 2017, there was a slide up in that area. And so you can see right there where it did slide. And so that's all that exposed soil that's right there. There's no vegetation that slid, and that actually was repaired in 2018. That was a large capital project, pretty neat project actually. And also, you can see that there was another slide a little bit upstream of there, but it was below where our water main is. So you can see, again, the exposed soil, the no vegetation there, but it's actually a little bit below where that water main is shown. And so we put it under a monitoring plan in that time. And so just to give a schematic view of what we're talking about here, Here's just the vertical or the 45-degree slope, the pipe in the ground there, and then what's called a escarpment, a scarp, is receding up the hillside towards that ductile iron pipe, which is our main water source there. And to touch on the 2018 repair, just so you guys have an idea of what happened, is you can see in the floor picture the exposed slope, the large escarpment that's shown, as well as you can even see the old wood stave pipe that was exposed. That's in that before picture on the right. So that kind of highlights the concern that this slide brought, because it exposed the old pipe and kind of highlighted what could happen to one of our, yes.
Is that you rappelling across the?
No.
slopes of the exposed?
Took those pictures.
Yes.
The one on the left is one of our consultants. The one on the right was one of our water workers.
Yep, and then there's the after. So after the construction, there's exactly. It's a mesh that is soil anchored in there. So there are some soil nails that are about 10 to 12 feet deep in there. Anyway, I won't go into the project details of that, but just highlighting what happened in 2017 and 2018. Now, if you remember that other slide that we put under that monitoring plan that we have been monitoring since, well, the quote from Aspect was, although this slide does not threaten the pipeline now, it almost certainly will within a few decades when the distance to the scarp is about 10 feet. Planning for the slope repair should start. So that was Aspect, which is now Geosyntec, in 2018. And so since then, we've been monitoring it. So in 2019, the distance to the pipe was 22 feet. So we still had some significant difference. It was still 22 feet in 2020. It was 20 feet in 21, 20 feet in 22. So not a whole lot of movement in those 3 years. 23, we had a jump of 3 feet. 24, didn't move at all. 25, it moved a foot. And then in 2026, it jumped 5 feet. If you remember, we had a lot of flooding back in December. That is likely the cause of that recent activity back there. And so now we're right at that point where planning should start for slope repairs on that additional slope. So that's where we are today. And just to give a 2026 image, here it is. You can see the blue highlighted is about where our water main is, and the scarp is shown with the 11-foot distance there. And those measurements are quite precise just because we staked it all out. And I won't focus on this CIP worksheet, but I will focus on this CIP worksheet. Well, I guess I should touch on this one a little bit. So we knew, I get to highlight, we knew this was coming. We didn't know when it was coming. We've had the CIP worksheet in there in the 5-year plan. It's always been on the back of the 5-year plan because we knew it was coming. We just didn't know when. Going back to how the escarpment was receding and getting closer to the pipe, when we created the 2025 sheet back in 2024, the projected outlook looked like we wouldn't have to do anything until early 2030s. But that 5-foot jump in 2025 to 2026 kind of aggressively moved forward the need for this project more than we intended or planned for, I should say. And so this contract with Geosyntec is to get the design to 30%. And it's just to get the moving fast on this, because the goal is to hopefully do the slope repairs next summer would be the goal. And so we'd be working with Geosyntec to get to 30%. And then we might explore doing design build options, again, to meet aggressive timelines, but then also to see if we could get innovative techniques for that. But that's a next contract situation.
So since we don't know what this next winter might bring weather-wise, as far as, is there any stabilization? I know one of the alternatives they offered was doing the same kind of repair, which is the anchored mesh, as was done in 2018. Is that something that you folks anticipate, or is there going to be something more concerning or more elaborate that needs to be done for this one?
So given a little bit of time, remember last time we had to come up with something quick. It was an emergency. The water line itself was under threat. We were within 3 feet of the water line. And so we had to move very fast. And so under an emergency, we did what we knew would work, right? And that we could accomplish within a very quick time frame before the next winter season. Here we have, we think, a little bit more time. We're at about 11 feet. Remember now, these slides are episodic. You can, they say on average, we can anticipate about 6 inches per year. And so over the years, it averages out to 6 inches, but it tends to go in 5 feet, chunks, right? Or something like that. So here we are, we've released a lot of energy off that slope. The river acts like a conveyor, always continuously eats away at the toe of that slope. And then when it becomes unstable in the wet conditions, you get a slide. So we've released a lot of that pent up energy. And so we think we're safe in taking maybe a more, a different approach. By what we'll do is start off by doing a 30%, we'll do the analysis. And we will look at the risks, get a better idea about the risks and what our opportunities are, and then potentially do a design build. If we go design build, but the way we would approach that is we would bid a performance specification, and we would allow different contractors to come and give us a proposal on how they would fix it, right? And we would let them do primarily most of the engineering, but we would maintain or retain Geosyntec to review their engineering. And so that way we have, 2 things. We have innovation, which can save us a lot of money and go quicker. And then we have our security of having good engineering who represent us overseeing the design and the construction.
And because we also want to maintain our maintenance access to the pipeline. And
That is actually something else that we need to consider, because it's been since, the 80s when last time we did the spring boxes. Thank you. And, we have now with ASR, the ability to take an additional 3 CFS, cubic feet per second. If we get once we get the reservoir permit, well, we may not be able to get that much out of our spring boxes at this point. So we may consider doing a project to renew our spring boxes, because they're getting old, right? They've been there for a while and they're a little bit clogged up with sediment. Spring boxes, they wear out. They kind of jam up with sediment, and they tend to become less efficient, or they don't collect as much water as they age. So they could be renewed so that we can get that additional 3 CFS, which is more than double than we're taking now. So there is a project in the offing. And so part of this job would be to improve our trail back to Canyon Springs, to the spring boxes, so that we can renew those spring boxes.
questions?
No questions.
Okay, well, in time, I think we'll plan on moving this contract forward to council. And then is there, so if it's not an immediate, but for next summer is kind of what we're looking for the project.
That's-
Okay.
We have time to do it. We should.
That's the target, yeah.
Perfect. Move that forward. Thank you. Any other options before I'll entertain a motion to
So moved.
adjourn? Thank you, everybody. Pass.